Week 1 lines have been released. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Okay, so I think many of these lines have been released before, but we'll just go over them now. We did get a starting quarterback from the Georgia Southern opponent, but we don't have one from Georgia Southern yet. And maybe we'll get some through the media availability this week. But let's go over those Week 1 betting lines. I have, I think, 8 of them so far. And I'm missing 4, but then I'm missing 2 more teams. We'll see. I got 8 betting lines so far. They do not have the group of 5 against the FCS schools for whatever reason. All right. So they will have those eventually. ULM at Jackson State, and we do have ULM against, and not at, but they're hosting Jackson State. Cajuns get Grambling. Marshall gets Stony Brook, and Texas State gets Lamar. All right. Those lines have not been released. There should be 2 more teams. I tried to do this off the top of my head, and I don't think I got to all of them. We do have 8 teams, 8 games that have been released. And remember, Coastal Carolina starts on a Thursday. So they kick things off August 29th. All right. This could be an amazing week for the Sun Belt, or it could get off to a little bit of a rocky start. Although, if you're 25 point underdogs, it's not going to really matter if you lose by a lot. All right. So it does start off with, remember, this is week 1 with the first week coming up this Saturday, right? I mean, we got Georgia Tech and Florida State this Saturday, although they're doing it in Ireland. So we do have action this week, and there's more than that, more than just Georgia Tech and Florida State. But we start off with Coastal Carolina. I need to make sure I'm seeing this right. I put it down as a 3.5 point underdog on the road. I think that's right. They're taking on, again, Jacksonville State. I think Jacksonville State's returning a lot of players. They played well against the Cajuns in the New Orleans Bowl at the end of last season. This is Rich Rod. I'm sure he's looking at an opportunity. Jacksonville State's going to look at an opportunity to put their name out there as well. And they get who's been a really good Sun Belt team the last handful of years, and that's Coastal Carolina. They're coming off a bowl win, coming off a good season under Tim Beck in his first year, a little bit more settled heading into year number 2, although we're technically still waiting to see if Ethan Vasco is your starting quarterback. They do have Noah Kim, the transfer from Michigan State, battling it out there. So Coastal is a 3.5 point underdog on the road at Jacksonville State. Then on the 31st, and we'll get into this more, the rest of the games are on Saturday. You have Boise State at Georgia Southern. When was the last time Georgia Southern was more than a 2-score underdog at home? Georgia Southern is plus 11.5 at home. Someone help me out there, guys. Josh Aubrey, perhaps, because I'm not sure the last time Georgia Southern was a huge underdog at home. I guess we'll have to look when maybe a Power 5 school came in. Boise State, not Power 5, or in this case, Power 4, are they? No, I don't think so. But they are considered, along with, Liberty and Memphis, one of the favorites to make the playoffs. We'll get more into that in a little bit, but Georgia Southern is an 11.5 point underdog at home. All right. Boise State is favored by 11.5. Old Dominion starting out on the road. They have, I still can't imagine this is the 105th easiest or 105th toughest schedule in America. I don't buy that. Old Dominion starting it out on the road at South Carolina. They are, as you would imagine, 20.5-point underdogs going on the road to play the Gamecocks. South Carolina's got a lot of questions to answer as well. Starting quarterback, reading that the defense seems to be better than the offense. We'll see what it does. Obviously, Old Dominion is replacing a lot of guys as well. We'll see if Old Dominion can go in there and, put up some points against South Carolina. The thing is, South Carolina's offense is struggling, but apparently their defense is the strength. We'll see if they can slow down Old Dominion's high-powered offense. You do get North Texas at South Alabama. South Alabama hosting North Texas. South Alabama needs to win this football game. I mean, it's kind of tough to have a must-win as your first game, but South Alabama has such a brutal schedule after the first 3 games. Like LSU, App State, and somebody else. I'll check on that. But it is just a brutal schedule. Like they could start out 3-0 and go 3-4 and still be a pretty good football team. So they need to beat North Texas at home. All right. So South Alabama, 5.5-point favorites at home. Troy, 14.5-point favorites hosting Nevada. The Wolfpack coming in to play Troy. Jared Parker gets a 2-touchdown line in his head coaching debut. We'll see how that goes. Again, news last week was Goose Crowder is their starting quarterback, and hopefully it works out for Troy. They are they are the heaviest Sun Belt favorite, at least with lines that have been released so far. All right. Southern Miss going on the road playing Kentucky. They are a 25.5-point underdog going to Lexington. The plan is to be at that game following work here in Kentucky and see if I can race up there, be the only media member covering the Fighting Will Halls. I'm sure he's going to love that. But we'll see how Southern Miss does. Again, their scrimmage, I think it's Tate Rodemaker who's going to make be the starter. Seemed to be the offense was a little bit more prolific. The second scrimmage, although I'm still trying to figure out why we had a 7:48 in the morning scrimmage. And that's early. That is, when are they eating before that? Are they getting up and eating at like 4? What are we doing? But Southern Miss going on the road, again, playing the SEC. Again, Kentucky's got a lot of questions to answer. So is it a tall order for Southern Miss to go in there and beat Kentucky? Yeah. Let's see if they can compete with the Wildcats. All right. Same with Old Dominion. See if they can beat or compete with South Carolina. These are good SEC teams. They are not great SEC teams. I think Mark Stoops has done a tremendous job at Kentucky. Cajuns fans will remember the Cajuns. I'm not necessarily should have beaten them, but certainly Mark Hudspeth and the Cajuns had a chance to beat Kentucky. And if you would have told me, who was gone first, it would have been Mark Stoops. But he turned that program around about halfway during that season, and it's been pretty good since. Nonetheless, it's not Georgia or Tennessee or Alabama or LSU or even A&M, or in this case Texas or Oklahoma. Right? They are not in the bottom half, but they would be in the top half. They would be on the top end of the middle part. But nonetheless, Mark Stoops has done a good job. Georgia State going cross town. They're taking on Georgia Tech. We've talked about this at length. 20.5-point underdogs are Georgia State, the Panthers. Now, good and bad. We mentioned Georgia Tech is playing Florida State, so they'll have a game under their belt. And everybody says the cliche, the biggest improvement happens between week 1 and week 2. Well, Georgia State will have a chance to see Georgia Tech play. Georgia Tech won't have that advantage with Georgia State. So we'll see how that goes. Again, can Georgia State stay with the Power 4 squad? And then you have JMU, 7.5-point favorites on the road. That's tough. That's a lot of points on the road. I've seen people say they're going to crush that line. I would presume JMU is going to win that football game, but winning on the road is hard enough, and you're a touchdown favorite on the road. This is an interesting spot for Bob Chesney to be, opening up on the road, trying to take down Charlotte. Game lines that we don't have again, I'm missing two. I'll check it out here momentarily. ULM against Jackson State compared to Jacksonville State. The Cajuns hosting Grambling, Marshall and Stony Brook, and Texas State versus Lamar. All right, let's take a timeout. We do have a week one opponent, quarterback, starting for Boise State, and it's a little bit of a surprise. And they're traveling down to Statesboro to take on Georgia Southern. We'll do that when we come back after I tell you about FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We all have something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. I personally have YouTube TV, also YouTube, obviously, but really enjoy my YouTube TV. And this is a way for you to get the NFL Sunday Ticket with a $5 bet through September 22nd on FanDuel. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. We went over the betting lines. The teams I forgot, forgive me. Arkansas State is taking on East Tennessee, and App State is hosting. Try that again. App State is hosting Eastern Tennessee, and Arkansas State is hosting Central Arkansas. Maybe I said that right the first time, but so Arkansas gets Central Arkansas, App State gets Eastern Tennessee. I think those lines will be out week of the game, so we'll check back. We'll also mark down if the lines change at all. We never know if someone's going to get hurt in the next 2 weeks, or if there's a big switch at quarterback or whatever may happen. So we'll do it. We're also going to make all the picks for all the games, and we'll see how we'll do. We'll post my record. We will do it against the line, although a lot of times I say they'll cover, but the other team wins. All right. Trying to do it both ways. I'm very good at talking out of both sides of my mouth. All right. So the big news today, I should say on Sunday, Pete Thamel from ESPN announces that Boise State named their starting quarterback, and it's Maddox Madsen. He's the redshirt sophomore, and he's going to lead Boise State into Statesboro to take on Georgia Southern. The surprising part here is that he beat out Malachi Nelson. Malachi Nelson was the #1 player in the country rated by ESPN in 2023. He went to USC. He transfers to Boise State. He just got beat out by Maddox Madsen. So we'll see how long that lasts. Thamel writes, Madsen brings experience and familiarity with the Boise State offense, played in 9 games last season, and has 1,234 career passing yards and 9 touchdowns. He also offers a dual threat, rushing for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns in his career. As I mentioned, Boise State enters the season as the favorites from outside the Power 4 conferences to capture a spot in the college football playoff, as one bid is reserved for the 5 conference champions. That leaves one bid for a league outside the Power 4, and Boise's the defending Mountain West champion, returning a large swath of experience and production from last year. All right. Madsen was engaged in a quarterback battle for most of last season, capturing the starting job from Taylon Green for the New Mexico game. Madsen suffered a season-ending injury in that game, which occurred after throwing 202 yards and a pair of touchdowns. All right. Crazy that this is the case. Nelson came to Boise State rusty as he battled injury much of his lone season at USC. He played in only the San Jose State game for the Trojans, taking 4 snaps. He threw in high school 105 touchdowns for almost 8,000 yards. So here's the thing. Georgia Southern hasn't named a starting quarterback yet. I think it could be, let me see here. Again, we're going by reporting. Josh Aubrey, who covers Georgia Southern up close and personal. I think it's David Dallas, who's a coach's son, who could be the first guy out there. By the way, checking the roster on Georgia Southern, all the quarterbacks, same size. I saw a nice picture on the internet with their newspaper. They all look the same size too, like 6'1", 205 pounds, straight across. Something like 6'1", 205-ish, all of them. And so it looks like maybe David Dallas is going to be the guy, at least to begin with, but we never know. Although, with school starting this coming week, camp is basically done, and everyone is focusing on the first opponent. I'm not sure if Georgia Southern is going to compete for a national playoff spot or even maybe the East in the Sun Belt, but boy, they would be helping their Sun Belt brethren. Could they take down Boise State? What if they even make it a close ball game? Does that matter? Maybe not in the realm of things. But it'll be interesting to see. Boise, who the Cajuns played a few years ago, Brett Rippon was the quarterback. The one time that Hudspeth wanted a earlier ball game, and he got one. It was hot and humid. It was tough. Boise got off to a really fast start. Cajuns never really recovered. Boise actually has, first of all, it's not that cool in Idaho, surprisingly, but they can turn up the temperature in their indoor facility so they can replicate the heat and humidity. All right. Can't replicate some other things, but they can do that. And they've never really had a problem coming south. Oddly enough, when Boise State was coming to visit the Cajuns, someone named, wait for it, Brian Harsin was the head coach, and he had already coached Arkansas State. So he knew of the conditions to get them ready for it in Lafayette. Now they're going to Statesboro. Still a tall order for the Sun Belt. As we mentioned, the Sun Belt has a huge opportunity to make a splash in the first few weeks. We haven't even gotten to the Texas State, Arizona State game, UTS game, App State taking on Clemson, and then ECU. Those are a little bit down the line. But, I mean, can Georgia State shock Georgia Tech? Going to be tough. Can Southern Miss show up against Kentucky in Lexington? What does Old Dominion do against South Carolina? I mean, there are opportunities, but at the same time, again, ODU is a 20.5-point underdog. Southern Miss is a 25.5-point underdog. Georgia State is a 20.5-point underdog. That's a tall order. Can you make those games close, right? And again, there's no solace for playing close ball games, right? No moral victories. I think there are. I really do, right? Old Dominion's going on the road to playing SEC team. All right, Georgia State going on the road, taking a bus cross down to play an ACC Georgia Tech team, who, again, that's got trap game, letdown game written all over it for Georgia Tech. And you don't think that they're going to try and say that because they're going to be coming off a game against Florida State in Ireland. It's got all kinds of trappings for Georgia Tech. And Southern Miss is playing UK. So, and they're playing on the road against the SEC. And so these teams are looking to get the kinks out as much as the Sun Belt teams are. There's a lot to be, gained if the Sun Belt can make a statement early on in the season, even before we get to those games that we're looking at that could provide major upsets. Again, I'm so looking forward to that App State Clemson game. We'll see what Clemson looks like against Georgia. I mean, heck, what if Clemson ends up shocking Georgia? Then the whole thing is turned on its head. But if Georgia blows out Clemson, like maybe I thinking they might, watch out for App State, especially if they got the better quarterback. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we're still waiting for some quarterback decisions. We'll go over that. We'll talk about that again with Georgia Southern, and Georgia State's got to make their decision. Marshall's got to make their decision. ULM's got to make their decision. Perhaps we'll find out during the week. Let me tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available for U.S. customers. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. By the way, not quite to 1,400 subscribers. Let's see if we can kick that up a bit. We got 2 weeks beforehand. I still think we're going to get more than 1,450. We're going to get almost to that 1,500 mark with 2 weeks left to go. Still trying to line up some announcers and broadcasters, voices of the Sunbelt, and see if we can get a couple of coaches in to see how it's going as they're approaching. Maybe we can do like the first year head coaches. I know they're busy, but see if they want to hop on with me. My time is a little bit more limited because it's either at night, which I don't mind doing, or on my days off. So we'll see if we can work that around their schedule. All right. So we're going to wait for the media avail. Some coaches were not available following the scrimmages. Again, not everybody is like South Alabama, and Craig Stevenson is there watching the whole thing and keeping the statistics of the whole thing, and then gets to talk to the coach, Major Applewhite, afterwards. Still not all that great with Gio Lopez, not just yet. I'm not going to overreact, only because when Ken Womack got there, and I think I've talked about this, it just didn't look like the offense was on the same page. And it took 2 possessions, and they were off to the races against Southern Miss in the season opener in Ken Womack's opening game. As it turns out, ironically, against the Fighting Will Halls and Southern Miss. But we need a Georgia State quarterback. Marshall, it appears, sources tell me that it is down to Braxton and Stone Earl. Yes, someone named their kid Stone. It's another great name in the Sun Belt. Apparently, Earl has the better arm, and for an air raid offense, that's not a bad thing to have. But with an air raid offense, because you're going 4 and 5 wide, you got to get the ball out quick. All right. All the opponents will bring pressure. That causes a little bit of confusion on the offensive line, and you got to get that ball out quick. So not only is it important to have a strong arm, but it's also important to have a quick mind and getting rid of that ball quickly, either to a receiver or just throw it away. All right. What you don't want to do is either take too much time, or B, make a poor throw because of a poor decision. That would be the bad thing. Also, sometimes taking a sack isn't the worst thing of all, right? You can come back, A, you can punt it. B, you could have, maybe you get sacked on first down and you got 2 more downs to take it, right? What you don't want to do is turn the ball over. And then ULM, I saw Brian Tavares talk about his team. I like the way the offense moved the ball, a couple of mental mistakes, preventing them from getting in the end zone. Thought the defense was very good. They have Jackson State coming in before Trent Dilfer's UAB Blazers come in week 2. And we're looking for, ULM to make an announcement for their starting quarterback as well. So who do we still have? I guess there's some, is Dylan Moore starting for JMU? Is Tate Rodemaker starting for Southern Miss? I think they are. Gio Lopez starting for the Jaguars. I'm not sure an announcement has been made, but I think that's what it's going to be. Again, we're going with Ethan Vasco over Noah Kim for Coastal Carolina. But, we still have, again, I think 5 teams that we got to look for. I mean, has Troy made the announcement, so that's Goose Crowder. We're looking for Georgia Southern, Georgia State. Marshall is 3. ULM is 4. Let me see. I wrote this down somewhere else. Let me see if I did it right. 1. Marshall, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, ULM, and the Cajuns. There you go. The Raging Cajuns. They're the 5th one, right? And so we did not hear how it looked with Chandler Fields or Ben Wooldridge this weekend, but I'm sure we'll hear from Mike Desmo eventually, and we'll see what happens. Kevin Foote does not have the access in Lafayette that some of us may have had in Mobile at South Alabama. I'm not sure if he's all that upset about that, but it is what it is. All right, we will continue hopefully with the voices of the Sun Belt throughout the week. We're going to try and get some coaches on as well. We're hopefully finally moving into the apartment this week, and we'll be settled in and get going once again. Really looking forward to. I mean, this is the first weekend of college football, and then the Sun Belt kicks off Thursday night, the following Thursday night, with Coastal Carolina at Jacksonville State. Again, please subscribe. Please tell everybody that you know about the YouTube channel. We're almost at 1,400. I think we're going to pop. We're going to get closer to 1,500 by the time we kick things off. Sorry, I'm not counting the Coastal game. August 31st. I'm hoping, lowered it a little bit. We're going to be over 1,450 by the time we get to opening weekend. All right. Thanks so much for hopping on. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm Dave Schultz. Have a great Monday and a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Tuesday.